Alright, hey everybody, welcome to a new video. Today I will show you how to use Visual Studio Code as your Java IDE. So first off, what is Visual Studio Code? Visual Studio Code is a code editor. It is somewhere between a actual text editor and a IDE, integrated development environment. That is because basically it is a text editor, but it provides extensions and it also provides like the smartness for actual syntax highlighting by using language servers. So when we are using Visual Studio Code to develop Java projects, we are actually relying on a language server that is provided by Eclipse that will provide the actual syntax highlighting and whatnot. So we will go into that a little bit deeper later, but first off, let's get VS Code installed on our machine. As you can see here, I already have it installed. In case you don't have it, you can navigate in your browser to code.visualstudio.com and go ahead and download it for your OS. So once you have VS Code downloaded and installed, you have to make sure you have a JDK installed on your machine, a Java development kit. If you don't have that installed and you are using macOS or Linux, I would recommend you use SDKman, which is a application that will help you manage your SDKs on your machine. It's really nice. Go check it out and go use it if you don't already. If you're on Windows, you could still use this using Windows Subsystem for Linux, but it will actually complicate stuff more. So I would then just recommend downloading a JDK from whatever vendor you like. Personally, I use Adopt OpenJDK. So if you go to adoptopenjdk.net, you can download a JDK from here. You have to go either with 11 or 15. If you want to compile projects with Java 8, you can still download that one too. But in order to actually run the Java extension pack inside Visual Studio Code, you need at least 11. So make sure you download at least 11. Once you have downloaded the JDK, go ahead and open up a terminal to verify whether the path variable and the Java home variable are set up correctly. If you're using SDKman, this will be done for you. So if I go ahead here and type in echo $, and then all caps path, it will show all these directories that are in my path environment variable, and one of them should be inside the SDKman folder, and it should be the Java one. And here we go, SDKman candidates Java current. It says current because I can actually choose between different versions of the JDK, and then SDKman will update the contents of this file to actually represent whatever JDK I'm using. The next one is Java home. So if you go ahead and echo $Java _ home, it will point to almost the same directory, except the path file will contain the actual bin folder and the Java home does not. This is just the entire JDK. If you're on macOS or you're using Linux and you are not using SDKman, check out the instructions on whatever vendor's website you're using the JDK from to see how you have to configure the path in Java home, or I'll put a code snippet in the description for you to check out. If you're on Windows, you can go to the start menu and type in something like environment variables. There you can change the environment variables for your system and make sure to add the path and the Java home variables like this. So the Java home one is the folder of the JDK you just downloaded, and the path one should contain the bin folder inside that JDK folder. So once you have installed the JDK properly, we still have to configure some things inside Visual Studio Code. So we will go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code if you haven't already. Once you have Visual Studio Code open, there might be a welcome screen here. Feel free to close it and then navigate in the left pane to the Extensions tab. Click on it and search for the Java extension pack, which I already installed. So this extension pack contains the main extensions you need for Java support inside VS Code. So if we look at the extensions here, the first one is the language support one by Red Hat. This one actually contains the Eclipse language server. So basically when you open up a Java file, behind the scenes there is a language server spun up. You can also see it as a headless Eclipse instance. And whenever you make a change inside your Java file, it will be sent to the language server, and then the language server will return whether there are syntax errors or whatever. It will actually check whether the changes are valid Java language changes. Other extensions are the debugger and Java test runner and Maven. They are all pretty self-explanatory. And I will also go through some other useful extensions you can use for your Java projects. But first, I want to make some changes in the configurations. So before I mentioned that the Java extension pack needs Java 11 in order to work, but you can still compile projects using older JDK versions. I still need that for work sometimes, so I will show you how to do that. In order to change your settings, go to Code and then Preferences, then Settings, or simply press Command, comma. And then we will have to go to the JSON settings in the top right, Open Settings JSON. Here you can see I already have it configured, but I will show you where I found it and put a link in the description box. This is the marketplace page for the Java language support extension by Red Hat. If you scroll down, there's a section for setting the JDK, and then here you find the property which you need to set, the Java configuration runtimes. So here you put the path to JDK 8, JDK 11 or other JDKs, and that makes it possible to compile with older versions of the JDK. If we go back to my settings, you can see I have my JDK for version 8, which is also in the SDKman folder, of course, and also my version of JDK 11, also from SDKman. Yours might be in different folders. Just copy the property from the marketplace, put it in your configuration, and then change the path accordingly. Down here is another useful property which we can set. If you're familiar with Eclipse, you have probably seen these files, the class path, the .project, the .settings, whatever. All these files are generated by Eclipse in order to actually make your project, your Java project work inside Eclipse. And because we are running a headless version of Eclipse behind the scenes as a Java language server, these files will still be generated inside your projects. So if you include this property in your settings.json, it will ignore all these files that are generated. So your project will look a little bit cleaner. For now, I will leave it commented out and I will enable it once we open up a project so you can see the difference. So now I will open up a project and we can start with a little demo showing some of the functionalities we have for Java projects inside Visual Studio Code. So the first thing I'd like to show you, and the thing I really like, is how fast Visual Studio Code loads up. So if you navigate to my projects folder and I open up a application, then it actually loads up really quickly. Now this is a small application, so it would of course load faster anyway. But if you compare the load up time from Visual Studio Code against something like IntelliJ, then it's really fast. And it's nice that you are able to jump right into the code and make adjustments quickly. So now we are in a small Spring Boot application, which I built to solve a Sudoku. It's pretty old, so don't really pay attention to what it does. I will just use it to show what you can do with Visual Studio Code and Java. So right now we are in a class, and I can show you that we can just declare variables. Like so, there's autocomplete, there's syntax highlighting. If you would declare something that does not exist here, the syntax highlighting will tell you that awesome does not exist. When you import something that does exist, like a list for instance, then you have the quick fix button, command dot, and you can also see the import statements listed here, so you can fix it. As you also saw, there are some autocomplete options. So here, if we type list dot, it will give us options on what we maybe like to do. So you can add stuff here and whatnot, do whatever you like. What I also think is nice is the Java docs here. So if you hover over the Spring application class, you can actually see the whole Java doc here. And it looks quite nice. If you press Command and then click on the class, you will actually go to the class. And actually when you go to the lower left tab here, you can click on Java projects and you can see where this class is located in your dependencies. So if you scroll up here, you can actually see it's located somewhere in the Spring Framework boot package. And all the other dependencies of your Java projects are here as well. So seeing that this is a Spring Boot application, there are loads of dependencies here. And you can actually click on them and view the classes that are inside them. So if we stay in this lower left pane, you can also see the Maven tab. Here you can run your application with the Maven commands. And there's also an outline tab. So if I move back to the Sudoku solver application and let's pick another class, here you can see methods and variables that are inside this class. So you can imagine this is a handy tool to have when your classes and methods get bigger and you need to navigate around quickly. So if you go back to this main application class with this main method, you can see there are two sort of like buttons here, the run and debug button. If you press this, it will actually run the application. Obviously, that's what it's named. And it will then just run your application in the terminal down here. And then there's also the possibility to debug your application. So if we set a breakpoint there and we push the debug button, you can see it will stop here and we can allow it to resume and then it will start up the Spring Boot application. You can also run and debug your application with the buttons in the top right here, but this is also actually one thing I don't like. So when you're working in the controller class, for example, and you make some changes here, when you push this run button, let me cancel this process first. When you push this run button, it will say main method not found. It will not default to the main method you ran earlier or whatever. It will just straight up fail. So you have to each time navigate back to the main method here and then push the run button and then it will work. Same with the debug, but I did find a workaround for that. So let me show you what I did. First I will remove this breakpoint and kill this process again. And for this, I went to the debug tab and clicked on create a launch.json file. So this launch.json file dictates what you actually can launch. So here you can see that it will launch the current file or it will launch from a main class. If you comment out this part, you will actually launch from the main application file, but only when you debug. So if you comment out this part of the JSON file and you will actually run the debugger from here, you will always launch the main class from this application class. So you can actually work inside the controller and then press this button, or for short press F5, and it will actually run the debugger. Because it is the debugger, it will take a little bit longer, but for me, it saves me the hassle of navigating to the different Java class with the main method and then push the run button there. So for me, it is kind of worth it. And maybe there is a different workaround, but I just haven't found it yet. And what we have for the run and debug buttons, we also have for the test buttons. So I will close these windows and navigate to the test package. And I can open up the tests. So you can see here, run test and debug test on class level, but also on method level. So if you press this button, it will run all tests. And then somewhere there will be some test results here. So you can see the tests were successful. And you can also run the tests individually. So let's say we make this false for now. We can run the test. Then we can see one test failed. Make it true again, run it. And it succeeded. Oh, I actually forgot to show you the difference for when you comment out that part from the settings.json that will clean up your Explorer. So let's go to the settings quickly by pressing Command, comma, and then top right you can press on the button for the JSON file. So here you notice the class path, the .project, also the .settings. I should also add the .idea here. And then if we comment this out and save it, you see that it already cleans up a bit. So for the idea thing, I will just copy this, comma here, paste, and say idea. Save it again. Now that is also gone. You can also remove the .vs code one, so you don't have to see the launch.json file. You can also do it for the .gitignore file, whatever. It will clean up your Explorer view a bit, and I think, yeah, this looks nicer. Also, I think there is a pop-up in the lower right corner when you open up a Java project for the first time, suggesting you to hide these files. And I think they will just add this exclusion property to your settings if you click yes. So that's also an option for you to do. I think we have gone over most of the functionality I wanted to talk about here. For the last part, I just want to create one class and show you the experience of actually writing some Java. So we will go ahead and make a random class here. And if I press enter and create a Java file, you can actually see that there will be some code generated already. So there will automatically be a class called hello, because that's the name of the file, and it will be automatically having the right package. And then we can choose what kind of Java class we want, or if we want an interface or an enum or whatever. I'll keep it as a class for now. And just like this class is automatically generated, we can also generate some code using snippets. So if we type in main, press tab, it will generate the main method. You can do the same thing for public methods, for private fields, for a whole lot of different things. You can also generate your own. Inside the code blocks, you can create try-catch blocks, for instance, and other stuff. And in here, I will just type some code to show you the syntax highlighting, the auto-completion, and a bit of how it feels. So let's just create a message here. So if you press Control space, it will suggest auto-completions. And we can actually look for the methods we want here. Of course, we already know. So that's a bit of how the auto-completion works. And again, you can press the run button here or in the top right, because now we are in this class and you can run what's actually inside the main method here. If you put a breakpoint here and run the debugger, you will see it will stop here. In the debug menu here, you can see the variables. And you can actually change the variables here as well. So if you keep running the program, it will actually print hello world with a capitalized W. So all in all, I think Visual Studio Code is a pretty good IDE, or can be considered as a pretty good IDE. I personally like it and use it sometimes for quick changes. And I can totally see full stack developers using Visual Studio Code for both their front-end projects and their Java projects. But I do recommend for most people to stick with IDEs like IntelliJ and whatnot. So that's it for this video, guys. Please let me know in the comments if you would use Visual Studio Code for your Java projects, or if you prefer a different IDE like IntelliJ or maybe Eclipse or NetBeans. And I hope you found this video helpful. Alright, see you in the next one. Bye.